Hey guys, welcome to Sharks Academy, and in today's video I want to share with you the trade idea and the trade projection moving forward to next week. So first of all, we start off with the dollar index, and we actually expected sells from here, but prices gave us a reaction to go potentially lower, but failed to do so, and now we see a breakout of market structure, right? We created new highs, and now we're expecting a higher low to form. So where is the higher low? We're going to expect high lows from this area or lower areas like this. Right, all of these are potential areas to buy from. So now, look at this on the weekly time frame. So this is a minor high. We expected this to get taken out, right? So this is the liquidity, and we expect DXY to move into this level, potentially tapping into supply areas like this before going lower. So with this projection, we expect immediate buys into this level before dropping off, right? So prices can grab this, make a move down into any of these levels before moving higher. Next up, for Aussie dollar, let me just remove all of this. Okay, so now you can see prices started to deliver bearishly. And if I'm looking to sell, where do I want to sell from? First, we have a break of market structure. We have another break over here. If I want to be a seller, I want to be seller at 2 points. I want to be a seller here and potentially here. Okay, so the context is different. Right, prices can easily tap into this level, fail to create a lower low, break structure, tapping into this supply and still go downside, right? This is valid. Also, prices can pull back, fail to create a lower low, break structure, buy from this demand zone, right? This is a flip zone into this level before potentially dropping off, grabbing liquidity here, this trend line created, otherwise tapping into this demand to continue going higher. So all of these are different projections for Aussie dollar. So how do we look to execute them? Because this is on the weekly time frame. So if you want to look for confirmations, we do not want to go down to the 5 minutes, right, or the 15 minutes to look for confirmations immediately. We want to play up with the higher time frame, right? Because this is the weekly time frame. We have weekly supply areas. The range is pretty huge. We want to look for at least the 1 hour or the 4 hours, right, to shift bearish. Okay, so these black lines are the 1 hour or 4 hours, right? It depends on your aggression. If I have a 4 hour shift, pull back, I can look for sells here immediately off the 4 hours time frame. Otherwise, you know that you can use the 3-step process inside of here, right? Because this is 4 hours BOS, right? This is H4 BOS, right? Or H4 change of character. You have supply zones here. You can wait for a 15-minute shift inside of this. 15-minute shift, pull back, get involved. So over here we have Euro Pound. And before we dive into the analysis, let's go through how did I take this trade last night. Alright, we have a change of character here. And with this move, this bullish move, I'm expecting liquidity highs here to be met, right? Although we are overall bearish. So we can look for this move to continue higher potentially. Right? So I trade what I see. I go down to the lower time frame, I look for demand area. This is my step number 2. And step number 3 is to go down to the lower time frame, the 15M, and take a look at this. Right? We have a equal lows, right? We took them out, gave us a 15 minutes change of character. So now with this shift, this area over here, this range is bullish, and I'm looking for this liquidity highs to be met. So this is my target, right? Prices broke out, taps in, grab liquidity here before moving, potentially lower, right? So with all of this bearish movement, we expect prices to break these lows, right? So what happens now? Let me remove all of this. Okay, when prices break structure here, or if prices were to break structure here on the daily, we expect sells from higher areas, anywhere inside here, right? Play around the time frames, and you realize that okay, now we have an 8-hour supply zone here. That if prices breaks down, we can look for a pullback to sell. Okay, so yes, if you are waiting for sells, then all you need to do is to wait for a market structure shift over here, right? We are looking for a break, a pullback to catch sells, right? But you understand that for prices to move into this level, this area has to deliver bullishly first. With that, all you need to do is to go down to the lower time frame on the 4 hours. Once this gets taken out, if we see a change of character here, we can look for bullish move, right? We can buy into the sell. So this is where you use your 3-step process again, right? This is all H4 break of structures. We are looking for H4 BOS, S&D zone, confirmations. H4 BOS, S&D zones, confirmations. And the same thing over here. Next up, Euro Yen. So we are delivering bearishly over here. and this should continue to deliver bearishly until told otherwise, right? So now we are at the demand zone. This demand zone is as valid as it is, right? We have a breakout structure here, right? We are looking for an upside move, potentially grabbing this trendline liquidity, tapping into the supply zone before shifting to go lower to continue this entire bearish movement over here. So now this means that we can look for buys, right? We're going to look for buys here because this demand is still valid on the daily time frame. We're going to look for accumulation, breakout to go higher, grabbing this, tapping into supply zones, potentially distribute to go lower, right, into deeper demand areas over here. So now, of course, this is what we think it is. Prices can easily tap in, fail to create higher highs, and starts breaking down. And of course, with this, we're going to look for sells. All right, so how do we look for buys at this demand area? So this is the daily time frame. We are likely to see this on the weekly as well. Okay. So now with that, we are going down to the 4 hours. We're going to look for a pro trend on the 4 hours. We're going to see, first of all, this trend line being taken out, right? Then grab this liquidity over here. So we're going to see a sell side move. And then I change the character here. So now my H4 is bullish. Then look for potential buys. Grabbing this as well. So next up, we have the euro dollar. So ask yourself this question. Are you bullish or bearish? Right? So if you look at the entire framework, of course, this will help you with your analysis, right? You're going to be bullish here. Prices fail to make a higher high. Instead, tap into supply zone here. And now, all of a sudden, you look for potential buys here or look to run this liquidity, right? So now, you have a range to go lower, and this is your demand zone. Anywhere from this level, you can catch sells into this demand, right? So we have range to go lower. So now on the weekly time frame, you can look. This is a breakout structure. We are definitely bearish. But do you want to be bearish here? Or you want to be bearish here? Do you want to sell here or sell here? You want to sell at a premium, right? So I'm going to use the fibs and sell anywhere above this level. So now if I want to be a seller, I'm going to sell at this supply zone. So now can you see step number 1 done, right? This is the breakout structure. I'm going to the sell side move. Step number 2 is to look for S&D zones. And in this case, this is the supply zone. Okay. So one thing to take note is that you have to know where you are in the entire market structure, right? If this happens, if this entire movement over here happens here, there might be a slight change in context, right? Because now you're sitting on a demand that broke structure. Okay. So now we know that the demand zone is here, and we definitely can look for sells to go into this demand. And that is the difference. You have to understand where you are in the market structure. Okay. So now with this framework in mind, we have a weekly breakout structure. We have a supply zone on the weekly time frame. I want to look for a higher time frame for confirmations. I want to go down to the 4 hours at the very least to look for a market structure shift, the change of character, a pullback. So now with my H4 being bearish, that is in line with the weekly time frame, I can now look for my 3-step process here, right? H4 BOS, supply zone, confirmations on the 15, look for sells, and that's it. Okay, so now the problem with going down to the 15 minutes or the 5 minutes again is you understand that you can have so many shifts because the movement is so small like this. You have a break, you have a pullback, you sell here, fails to create a lower low, breaks out, and this is gonna keep happening, right? So this is gonna replicate 4 to 5 times. Okay, and by then when prices really starts to shift down and continue lower, you have already given up on this trade because all of this over here, you have participated. You took 4 to 5 losses in this movement over here, right? Likely you are going to over leverage, do revenge trading. You're going to trade with huge lot size, right? You're going to gamble, you're going to revenge trade and basically bust your account easily over here. And you are not wrong in terms of market direction because you are trying to sell, but you're selling using a relatively lower time frame, right? This is the weekly zone. This is the weekly structure. A 5 or 15 minutes may not be enough, right, to tell you that prices really want to move off from here, right? So imagine all of this over here. You move, okay, on the 15. You're doing it on the daily time frame, right? It only takes 1 or 2 losses. Okay, let's say this fails, right? You sell here, it fails, it goes higher, and then it breaks down. At most, you lose 2 times, right? As compared to losing 4 to 5 times or 6 times even, right, on the lower time frame. And that is the difference by using time frames to your advantage. Next up, for the pound yen, you can see that we are clearly moving sideways here, right? We don't have a clear direction over here. So now, what is the easiest way to trade pound yen? Wait for demand to fail. Wait for supplies to fail. So let me just remove all of this again. We know that prices are in the middle of the range, you can see, right? This entire movement over here is about 50%, right? So now, you always want to get involved at the extreme points. You want to either buy here, potentially, or sell high. You want to sell somewhere here, right? Which already made its move, okay? So now over here, this is not a good price to participate on the high time frame. So what do you want to see? I want to see this demand fail. I want to see a breakdown like this and trade the flip towards this level. And that is the only way I'll actually catch trades for pound yen, right? Of course, sitting on the demand, we are getting the reaction we want. Does this reaction mean that price is going to run highs? This does not necessarily happen, right? You're going to see this demand fail because if I want to be a buyer, I want to buy low, I want to buy here, right? Prices taps in, reacts, break structure. This is the supply that caused this demand to fail. So I'm looking for a pullback into this level to catch sell continuations to go lower into this demand. So now when prices are delivering bearishly here into this demand zone, you are going to catch sells to potentially break this level because this sell side move has no intentions to fail, right? Unless it gives us a failed reaction, then break structure, then demand zone, then this marks a move higher, grabbing trendline liquidity. This is the only time where you know that, okay, we are going bullish, right? Otherwise, this sell side move should continue to deliver bearishly until it fails. Okay, so that is the market context, right? We are looking to potentially buy here because this demand did broke structure over here, right? But of course, didn't break this high, right? And this could call for a bounce, right? So even though prices may not necessarily make its run towards these highs, you can catch this bounce, right? This movement over here on the daily time frame is easily a runner on the 15-minute time frame, right? So understand where you are in the market, understand your range, right? If I want to be a seller here, I want to sell here potentially, or I want to wait for this demand again to fail, and trade the flip, right? This is the easiest way and the most clear-cut manner to trade. Next up, pound dollar. This is pretty clear-cut, right? We have a pool of liquidity lying beneath here. We have supply zones, and prices are delivering bearishly. So now prices pulls back, taps into supply zone, and started to deliver bearishly. This is an area of supply to look for. This is an area to supply to look for as well. So what is the difference? Prices taps in, reacted to this demand, broke structure. If you want to be a seller, this is already a valid POI to sell from. So now can you see how you can use your 3-step process over here? You can start off with the daily, of course, right? Break of structure, demand, supply zone, go down to lower time frame, 15 minutes, okay, or even the 1 hour over here. Look for market structure to shift. Pullback, get involved for sells. Okay, so of course this might not happen, right? Prices can fail you once or twice. Pullback, you take a sell over here, prices starts to accumulate here. Go higher before breaking down. All of this over here is to generate more liquidity, okay, at a supply before taking them lower. Of course, looking to grab this before going lower potentially into all of these areas over here. So next up, for the New Zealand dollar, you understand that we are all entering the weekly time frame space over here. Okay, we have a break. We have supply zone here. So this is where I'm looking to sell from. Okay, if I look for a lower time frame, let's say I look for 4 hours. Okay, 4 hours started to deliver bullishly like this, right? I'm potentially able to catch buys into the sells, go lower. Okay, so I want to see a change of character over here. I want to make sure that my 4 hours, or at least the daily time frame, starts to deliver bullishly. Then this allows me to catch buys up into the supply zone to catch sells. Okay, on the weekly time frame, if you're looking to sell here, you can also just wait, right? You can wait for prices to do whatever you want over here, right? Before tapping into this supply. And all you need to do over here is to look for a shift in market structure to go sell side. Because you understand now, this is my impulse. This is my step number 1, right? Impulse, bearish leg, broke structure, supply zone, step number 2. Look for confirmation, step number 3. Okay, understand that this is the weekly time frame. You are going to use a relatively higher time frame to look for confirmations as usual. So next up, the dollar Canadian, you can see over here, firstly, we wicked out, right? We tapped into a demand zone. We started to deliver bullishly. So over here, we are bearish, right? We have a low, high, break structure, supply zone, and this means that we can catch sells, right? This sell may not potentially run down into liquidity pool, right? We may expect a bounce here before going higher. This is definitely possible. So let me just mark out the zones that are potentially going to bring us higher. Okay, all of these zones over here are the ones that are going to bring us towards this liquidity pool over here, potentially, right? So this is just a bias, right? Otherwise, over here as well, okay, because we understand that we have this, right? Prices can easily make its move down, grab this before going higher. This is also possible. So now, at this instance, we are looking for a lower time frame shift. So can you see what is this? I didn't take these trades just to tell you, right? We have a change of character. We grab liquidity, we broke structure, right? Simple as that. We have a supply zone. Okay, so yes, this supply zone may look like, or rather this trade may not look like a winner on the high time frame. Can you see on the daily time frame? This is just reaction of the supply. This reaction on the lower time frame easily brings you a 1:3, right? Can you see over here, purely just based on this trade, it's 1:3, right? On the daily time frame, it looks like a pullback, which didn't even move. Some traders do not even know that this is already at a supply zone. Okay, we do not expect runs down. We understand that prices can easily tap into this to go higher. This is definitely possible. So how am I looking to trade this? I'm waiting for this supply or this high to get taken out. So now, prices taps in, reacts, break structure. I'm going to trade the demand flip. Pull back, get involved, run into this liquidity high. That is the plan for dollar Canadian. Lastly, dollar yen, right? We have bullish movement. We broke structure. We tap into demand. It starts to shift in structure. Can you see? Lows, highs, lower low, right? So this grab liquidity, broke structure. If I want to be a buyer, where do I want to buy from? I want to buy from two areas. I want to buy from this demand. I want to buy from potentially here. Okay, so both of these areas are valid for buys. And of course, we do not just base buy limits like this. All right, we're going to confirm these areas. Unless you are willing to take such a huge stop loss, okay, or take the risk to trade something like this or something like, this, right? This is huge stop loss, right? 126 pips, okay? Otherwise, look for the 3-step process. Understand that this is a daily time frame. You're going to look for a pullback, a shift, targeting this liquidity high, okay, and ultimately over here. So this can repeat the exact same way as the bottom areas over here. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope that this weekly market analysis provided you with proper insights, and the tutorials over here has given you a light in trading. And for those who really like our methodology and wants to join the Sharks Academy team, please fill out the Google form below. And we are using or having a Chinese New Year promotion for Singaporeans as well as any overseas students who are potentially wanting to learn from us. So if you're interested, please give me a text, drop us a message, email us, whatsoever. I'll see you in the next one.